Welcome in, everyone. I am the Crypto Bull God, and this is all in the charts. If you appreciate the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. Drop me a comment. You gotta click that bell icon for all notifications to know when I go live each and every single weekday. Feels very good to be back. I see everybody here in the live stream. I see all of your names here. I'm not gonna call everyone out here. I want to try to save a little bit of time because I feel like we have so much to get into, but I did want to say to everyone who is tuning into the live stream, whether you've dropped a comment or whether you're incognito behind the scenes, did want to say that it feels very good to be back. We're not going to do this on this live stream. Of course, this is all about charting, and we're going to talk about the crypto markets because we do have a lot to cover, a lot of important developments within the market, but I will be, in full disclosure, as you guys know me to be, I'm hopefully coming through as a pretty authentic and transparent individual. So I will have a CBG podcast out very shortly that's kind of getting into the ins and outs, some specifics in terms of why I was off social media for a bit. Because again, I think there's some messaging there that I can help convey to the audience that might help you out, because you could find yourself at life in a similar situation at some point moving forward. You never know the deck of cards that life will deal you, right? So I think there's some helpful messaging in there, so I'm going to make sure to do that. But let me just say it feels damn good to be back and excited just to get into charting. So did spend a little bit of time charting yesterday evening. I spent a little bit of time charting after work today. Didn't get to spend as much time coming into this conversation charting as I wanted to, because during this time off, the other thing I'll share with you is totally took a break from charting. I was not charting at all. So I was, for the most part, following prices. I was still listening to educational content on YouTube and doing things like that, whether it was market related or crypto related, but really took some time off from charting, took some time off because I needed it. So, but did go through a fair amount of charts, and I think there is enough here to share with you that we can have a really value-added discussion today in terms of my overall thoughts on the market and how I'm honestly looking at things, how I'm assessing things, what price points would get me truly concerned, what price levels could we pull back to. You know, are we seeing a healthy correction, or is this something potentially far worse than we could have imagined over a expected correction? I mean, quite honestly, had Bitcoin maintained a price level right at that $62,000 area, not much would have changed by the time I had come on here to live stream, but we have dipped below $62,000. So I think it's a good idea for us to take a look at the market here and kind of ask the question, what's going on? Now, something else I'm going to be doing over the course of time here, over these next handful of days, kind of going into the weekend and leading into next week, I'm going to be heavily getting back into charts here, okay? So that will provide me or afford me the opportunity to draw some further conclusions in terms of what I'm seeing in the market. There's also those two newsletters that I'm subscribed to that I haven't been as privy, that I've shared with you guys, TechDev52 and Tony the Bull. I mean, I just haven't been as current with those newsletters, just from kind of taking some much needed time away. So it'll also give me the opportunity to assess other people's whose views I respect, to get their thoughts on the market. Combine that with my own personal independent view, and then I'll have some more well-informed thoughts to share with you guys next week. But there are enough charts I've evaluated coming into today's discussion that I absolutely think I can provide some value in terms of what you're thinking is going on in the market. Now, I hope, real quick, before we get into charting right now, my hope for this group, because I know I have such a smart audience, my hope during this time is that in generalities, this is kind of where you're coming at it. I had tweeted out earlier today about, in generalities, how I'm assessing the market. And I'll get into why this is, but My current view of the market right now is this is setting up for a massive opportunity to be aggressively scaling in on some moves that you may have missed out on. Now, obviously, if your average buy point on Bitcoin is $5,000, your average buy point on Casp is 3 to 4 cents. I mean, you're pretty locked and loaded as it is. You've been buying years ago, right? So. But for some of these projects that maybe you guys have wanted to scale into, maybe even Bitcoin, maybe you wanted to increase your exposure into Bitcoin, in my opinion, after just quickly assessing a few charts, it became very obvious to me this is really setting up for a massive buying opportunity to begin aggressively getting into if you have any extra fiat to invest into crypto. Of course, as I always say on this channel, I'm never going to offer you financial advice. I'm just offering you my view of the market, and then you can make your own personal educated decision. But really, I think in the situation that's been playing out the past week with how much of a correction we've been seeing, there's really two ways that you could respond to this. Of course, you could be confused, but really I have the two responses laid out here. And that is, you could either be looking at this as a buy aggressive opportunity, buying into this dip, right? Scaling in, laddering in, as they say. Or the thought of that makes you feel angry or repulsed, right? And if the anger or, frustration comes out in me sharing that with you, what that tells me is you don't have your emotions in check, and you also haven't been in this market for a long time, which is hopefully one of the value propositions that I bring to you, is that I've been in this market for a very long time, and as animated and cray as sometimes I can get, it doesn't never mistake that for a lack of education. It's enthusiasm that's coming through. So with that being said, let's kind of get into what my view of the market is based on the opportunity I've had to assess things thus far, re-entering the charts. There is a very specific reason, by the way, which I'll get into the podcast, why today I'm having a fucking glass of wine and I'm celebrating. Today was a big day for me. I made some things official and it felt good. Okay, so we're going to start off with lower time frame view, and then we're going to build into that higher time frame view, which is typically how we do things on this channel if you're new to the channel. Now, keep in mind, we actually just had a monthly close, right? So haven't had a full, it's been a minute, as they say, as the young generation says, it's been a minute. It's been a minute for me charting. So, but I have had time to assess the monthly view on Bitcoin, so we can certainly talk about that. But anywho, let's look at Bitcoin. Now, one of the things I know that I hit on a couple weeks ago before I was out, I tried to simplify your life and indicate to you like the 2 or 3 charts you should look at, right? And one of the things recently I've been hammering home on to you guys, and again, this is just to simplify your view of the market. You really, at this stage of the game, based on where I think we are at in the cycle, okay, you need to primarily focus on Bitcoin. Because what Bitcoin chooses to do next is going to be the main driver of value in the market. It'll be the main driver of the decision point for the market, whether we're super risk on or super risk off, right? So in other words, one of the things that I have spoken to, this main view that I have on the market is, as Bitcoin is correcting, okay, like we're seeing a correction right now, most of your alts, a lot of your alts are going to correct harder than Bitcoin. You really want to watch the ones that actually show greater strength. You can check out the relativity charts for that, which we can take a look at this week, next week. But the other important thing that I have indicated to you guys to pay attention to is what happens when Bitcoin moves up, right? And my full expectation is once we start breaking up towards that upper $70,000 area, low $80,000 area, that is when you're going to see some exhaustion run out of Bitcoin, and you're going to see the ramp up in altcoins. You're really going to start seeing your altcoins exploding in value, okay? It's like a trickle-down effect, right? the money starts to flood out of Bitcoin and it starts to flow into your altcoins. Plus, new money enters the market as you start to see things on the news, the major headlines and such. So really what I'm getting at here is Bitcoin's really going to tell you what the rest of the market is ultimately going to do. So we need to understand and assess the relative health of Bitcoin to get a really good pulse on things. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So this is the 12-hour. If you are new to the channel, there's a lot of historical significance in the 12-hour chart. This is why I hit on this chart very routinely. The pink line is the 200 simple moving average, and the purple line is the 50 simple moving average. And when there's a true golden cross or a true death cross, statistics tell us what is most and least likely. There is some what I would call statistically, I don't know if I'd say significant, but meaningful information within this chart. Because one of the things we do have to understand, and this is very, I commonly speak to this on this channel, Bitcoin has limited price data, so we really have to be creative in terms of what views we're looking at. So with that being said, one of the key things we look for is this 200 simple moving average. Now we have the golden cross that has been good, but ever since we fell below this 50 simple moving average back in the middle of April, we've had a really hard time getting above it, right? And this is something I feel like I spoke to earlier. But you can see right now we're starting to fall under the 200 simple moving average. Now historically, if we were to look back in time, which we're not going to do, sometimes what happens is when we're in the epicenter of a massive bull movement up, Bitcoin likes to either come down, barely miss the 200 simple moving average, touch the 200 simple moving average, or slightly deviate from it, spend a little bit of time under here, but then get back above it. What we want to watch for on the 12-hour chart is, are we gonna tend to gravitate in this area here, okay? And there's not further deviation to the downside, and then we'll quickly start to resume prices back up above 62,000 and push above this 50 simple moving average. Is that what's going to happen, which is what I'm fully expecting? Or will something less probabilistic, in my opinion, happen, and will we begin to do this? Now, this would be concerning, okay? If we start to get the lower lows and lower highs coming in and we're starting to go down to this, like, let's say $48,000 area, this would really concern me because while it wouldn't invalidate the bullish structure we've created since the beginning of 2023, that's not what I'm saying. The reason this would concern me is this tells me that it's going to take us a lot longer than I was expecting to build a base and start pushing back up towards $80, $90, $100,000. Okay, that's what it would tell me. So again, I want to make sure I'm not unnecessarily alarming anyone. What I'm not saying is if this scenario plays out and we hit, somewhere around $48,000 or $50,000, it doesn't concern me in terms of not having that big bullish cycle intact. The reason I'd be really bummed out is probably another way to say it, is because this really is going to take longer than I was expecting. And that just means those $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 targets we've spoken to, it's just going to take longer to play out. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But the question is, when would I really start to get concerned about prices? Okay. So what we can do now is we can use we could use a couple different charts. I want to think if I want to use the weekly here. I mean, there is more condensed price action, but I think I can still show this on the 3-day. Now, again, guys, for those of you who have been loyal subscribers for a long time and followers, one of the value-added views I came up with a long time ago was using the 125 simple moving average on the 3-day chart. Okay, I've spoken to it plenty of times. And right now what we've done, okay, I'm not going to go through the history again and spend 5 minutes doing that, but we got this close above here, and ever since then we've stayed above the 125 simple moving average. Now what this chart is telling me is if what's going on right now really is what I believe is going on, and it plays out similarly to what has happened in the past, then what we shouldn't do is go below this 125 simple moving average. Now, by definition, it's a moving average. So as 3-day candlesticks continue to print on this chart, this 3-day moving average is going to move, right? So, by June, maybe we'll be up here at like $42,000, $43,000, right? Price could come all the way down here and touch here, and I'm fine. If we get a wick below here, that's fine. If we get a 3-day candle body close below the 3-day, I wouldn't want to see that, right? Not expecting it, but wouldn't want to see it. When would I really start to get concerned with price, though? If you said to me, come on, CBG, give me your line in the sand. My line in the sand would be this wick right here at 38,500. If you started to see prices closing below 38,500, then I would get concerned. I would get concerned because I believe what could be playing out in the chart is not what I was expecting. That's what I would say. Now, am I expecting prices to get below 38,500 right now? No, I'm not expecting that. But that would sort of be my line in the sand. And the other thing I would say is there is confluence here. So it's not to say that we couldn't get close to this area, come down, maybe something unexpected happens that I'm not seeing in the chart and come all the way down to 41 or 42,000. We're still fine. Because the thing I don't want you guys to lose perspective of, if we zoom out to a weekly real quick, okay, always helps when there's a lot of noise in the market and there's a lot of volatility and price is just not doing what you expected, right? And we'll take a look at my expectations chart. I want to actually pull that up. We'll see, whether or not we're still following the path that I expected back in September of 2023. So the thing I don't want you guys to lose track of, this is a weekly chart, right? This bull run, okay, what I believe is a fifth wave of a broader Elliott wave I've spoken to, it began really, it wasn't even January of 2023. I would actually say this started in November. Because this is a really good wine, by the way. This is, one moment, please. So this wine that I have is 19. I think you guys, if you guys drink wine, more than likely you've seen this at your local Publix or grocery store or whatnot. 19 Crimes. 19 Crimes has a lot of different varieties of wine, but their one is I feel like I've had it one time before and I got it recently because it came up on my suggested list. It's dark red, and the dark red is very good. I would say, not that I was a big drinker to begin with, but I would say in the past several months, really ever since my surgery, I've cut back on drinking quite a bit. I mean, even when I think back, if there were Wednesdays, Thursdays, I felt like having some whiskey, or I don't do that stuff. I've had a little bit of wine here and there, but I haven't actually had liquor in a while. Probably since my birthday. That's crazy. Or maybe Valentine's Day. I am digressing, so we're going to continue forward. Okay, the thing I don't want you guys to lose track of here is that really this bull run, okay, this started in November of 2022, okay, when we bottomed here. And since then, what has the chart done? And this is why it really benefits you no matter what stage you are at in investing. I think you don't have to be a proficient, this expert or proficient technical analyst, but I think just being able to pull up a chart, look at something on a high time frame, looking at something on a weekly, 2-week, monthly, 3-month, I think being able to do that and understand in generalities with a couple different moving averages indicators, you know what an RSI is, a MACD, maybe a stochastic RSI. You got a couple moving averages in there. Maybe if you really want to get fancy, 10, 20, 50, or 100 10, 20, 50, 200 simple moving average, but you could always just stick with the 50 and the 200 as well as the 20. But being able to pull up a chart like this can really help to curb your emotions. Because, guys, if we look at the chart here, what have we been doing? And this is why I don't want to go below 38.5 here. What have we been doing? Well, I mean, all we've literally been doing, all we've literally been doing. I'm just showing you all these higher highs and higher lows, right? So did we, to this point, if we assess where price action is at, this candlestick has gone down to 56,500. Has this gone lower than what I was expecting in terms of my primary view? Yes. Okay. I expected it. I was more in the camp of, and I think I might have shared this with you. I forget. I don't know. It's been a couple weeks, guys. But I was more in the camp that if we break 62, we could go down to that 58 area, right? Okay, so we've gone a little bit lower than that. But even if we've gone a little bit lower than what I was expecting, I can still look at this chart and say there's nothing going on within the chart that really has me super concerned. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys, a couple things. We spent a great deal of time talking about the relative strength index. We're also going to keep an eye, obviously, on this MACD on the weekly. We want this thing to not get super dark red here on this negative cross down, right? Stochastic RSI, we want this to get above 20, get a positive cross. But let's focus just on the relative strength index. Now, a couple things here. First off, we've spoken about, let's just look at the RSI. We have spoken about the historical context on a weekly Bitcoin chart of a 70 RSI. We have broken well below 70. This dotted line, you see this horizontal dotted line? This is the 70 line. And as you can see, we've broken well below it. Here we broke below it temporarily and got right back above it. Now we're well below it. Now that does have me concerned, okay? Typically in prior runs, we like to stay above that 70 while we're making our huge, largest moves in the market for Bitcoin. But again, this is why it's important not to rely on one sole indicator, guys, especially with a very immature market. Anytime I'm speaking to something that wow, that was interesting stutter right there. Anytime that I have spoken to something that has occurred in the past and we're relying on history to sort of make informed decisions of what we most and least likely can anticipate moving forward, keep in mind every time that I bring that up, that's based on very limited price data, right? So I think it would be a huge fallacy to come on this chart and say, well, the relative strength index has dipped below 70 and now it's all over. I mean, that would be a horrendous conclusion to come to, for a multitude of reasons. One, you have a limited sample set of which you're comparing it to in the past. And secondly, there is no one indicator with 100% certainty that can tell you what's going to happen in this market. But regardless, it is a caution flag. It's absolutely a caution flag. And we'll get into another big caution flag on the monthly. But the last thing, before we get off this weekly chart, the other thing I'm really going to be watching for here is, are we going to come down and touch this RSI at 56 and does it hold? Because I'll tell you what I don't want to see. This would be es no bueno. Okay? Funny story real quick before we get into this. I had, once in a while, I have some cleaning ladies come in. They clean up the place real nice, make it look spick and span shiny. So I wanted to Zell them a tip, okay? And I really appreciate people that do this type of work. Like, I know they're very hard workers, and I want to give them a nice tip. So ask them Zelle or Cash App. They say Zelle. So I say they only speak Spanish, no English. Es número, and then teléfono. Okay. So they say out the numbers, 561102242. I can repeat that back. I'm good to go. All right. Estudié español en la escuela muchos años ago. Okay. I know a little bit of Spanish. So now, Zelle, for whatever stupid reason, makes you put in the name. And I'm like, es nombre? Es nombre? And she said her name. And I typed it up and she was like, no. No, and she showed me her name. Completely butchered her name. So, good with the numbers, bad with the letters. That totally makes sense, though, in every facet. I am a math guy, right? I'm good with the numbers. I'm bad with letters. I am bad with names, though, in general. If you ever introduce yourself to me, I will forget your name within the first 60 seconds. That's just me. But if you give me a number, I will remember it. I will remember the number. I'm very good with numbers. Hopefully, you're tuning into this channel, so hopefully I'm good with numbers and analytics. But anyway, I'm going to be watching for this line to hold. What you don't want to see is this line break and then it sort of acts as resistance. Kind of brings us into Bitcoin dominance, right? That's what's going on in this Bitcoin dominance chart that we spent a lot of time talking about. This Bitcoin dominance on the weekly, it continued to hold this line. What did I tell you guys? Once we broke below here definitively, we'd come up and we'd try to get it back above here, and we couldn't. We have since rolled over, okay? Just a quick comparison point real quick. Now, real quick, before we get into the monthly close on Bitcoin, how is Bitcoin looking relative to my general expectations back in September of last year? Now remember, for those of you who have been paying great attention to what I've been talking about, as much as, I mean, if you follow the general pattern here, all of this has played out seamlessly, right? And I said to everyone, I mean, you can call me a magician. Everything's working out real nice right now of what I expected in generalities. At some point, you're going to get a deviation. Did I not come out here and say, at some point, you're going to get a deviation? May could be the month where the deviation comes in, because I am anticipating the way this is set up here for us to top in either June or July. I said June or July. So May could be the determining fact where we really do start to get a strong deviation here. So we'll keep an eye on it. Now the monthly, very important point on the monthly. Let's take a look at this clean view first. On the monthly, I haven't had enough time to assess the price indicator, so I'm going to kind of... The other thing I did notice is this monthly RSI was above 70, now it's below 70. I don't know how bad that is from a historical perspective. I do need to spend more time on the chart. But there was one thing on this chart I wanted to talk about, and it's this candlestick. Now, yesterday, if you are following me on Twitter X at CryptoBullGod, one word. If you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I'm right here. What I had tweeted out yesterday was that Bitcoin really needed to close today, as of yesterday. It needed to close yesterday at 61,160. Yeah, so where am I getting that? It needed to close at 61,160 or above. Why was that? The opening candlestick is here, okay, right here. Where price opened was 61,160, okay? And if price yesterday for a monthly close closed anywhere below 61,160, where this monthly candlestick opened, it would create what is called a bearish engulfing candle. And we've covered this idea here, whether it's bullish or bearish. The body of the red here is eclipsing the body of the green. It's one of the most basic things when you learn technical analysis, one of the most basic formations you look for. There's a lot of names, Spitting Tops and Do-Si-Do and Rhymey Rhyme and Harry Kerry. I just can't, I'm just coming up with this shit. Sally, Fally, and Jobo Ho. All these different names, you can come up with different formations, right? I don't fucking know all of them. I'm not going to pretend to. I think it's far less important knowing the names of different things that follow each other with formations versus being able to read a chart and it tells you a story. Very simplistically put, if you're looking at the current candlestick and the whole body of the red is eclipsing the prior body of the green candlestick, that is very bearish, right? So historically what that means is we could see further downside. Now, we'll have to see how May plays out. May could be a month. Let me give you kind of my rough expectations. I think what we could see for the month is a long wick here and a green body up with some sort of probable wick to the top. We could see some sort of a wick down here and a thin body here, sort of indecisive, and then June's going to be interesting. Or, based on this bearish engulfing candle, we really do see a lot more further downside, and we can't, before the end of the month, we can't start to show some bullish momentum to push back up here, and we have a thicker red candlestick for the month of May, which would be the most bearish of scenarios. What do I think is going to happen? I think more than likely for the month of May, what we'll see is some sort of a thin body here, if I had to take a guess. What I'd love to see, I'll tell you what I'd love to see for the month of May. What I would love to see, you see this green line here? Now again, where's this at? So, wow, that's interesting. It's basically 61,000. I would love to see this month close. I want to get above here. This one opened here. I really want to start pushing up towards 61,000, like 200, 300. So if for the month of May, if we can get a close at or above like 61.2, 61.3, that would actually be a very bullish signal, because what that would indicate to us is we had bearish momentum take us down here. It couldn't sustain itself, and now we've closed back up here, which is a point of confluence I have laid out, this green line here. We're closing above this open here, or this close here in April, and we're closing above the opening candlestick in March. So really, if we can start to push above 61.2, 61.3 for the month of May, that's what I'll be looking for. Something to watch for. Now, this is the monthly view. We looked at the Vortex indicator, the Traders Dynamic Index, and the ADX and DI. So far, the only concerning item I see on this chart on the monthly view is the Traders Dynamic Index, okay? We want the green to stay above the blue. They're kissing right now. We have kissed in the past. The green has come down. You can see right here. My face is in the way. I hate when I do this. Sorry. Right here. You can see back in 2017, we kissed here, we kissed here, we kissed like 3 times, and that's fine. So it's fine that the green is touching the blue right now, but it's something we really need to watch for. Now, this is a monthly candlestick, right? So let's say we get further downside volatility, right? Let's say we're in the middle of the month and Bitcoin's at like $54,000, right? You're going to see this green, and it's already starting to cross down here further. What you have to keep in mind is this is a monthly view, right? So just like a candlestick isn't final until it prints, a price indicator is not final until it prints. And so we could be below here now, but if we start pushing back up to 60, 61, 62, you're going to see this thing kissing it but not having a negative cross. So I wouldn't get overly concerned with that at the moment. This is why I'm saying May is an extremely pivotal month. This is what I was tweeting about or posting about. Bitcoin dominance, the interesting thing is, and it further shows you how Bitcoin dominance works. Bitcoin dominance is just showing what percentage of the market Bitcoin has control of, right, versus the altcoins. Bitcoin dominance going up doesn't mean necessarily that Bitcoin's USD value is going up, just like it going down doesn't necessarily mean the USD value is going down. What's interesting about this is dominance has been continuing to bleed as Bitcoin has been correcting. Well, I'll tell you what this is telling me. What this is telling me is that, in layman's terms, let me explain what's going on here. This is saying we're undergoing a correction, and on average, when we look at the altcoins are actually correcting, which is not what I would have expected, to be honest. The altcoins, on average, for all the altcoins, are correcting less than Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin's correcting, the altcoins, on average, for that market share that it makes up, which it looks like it's about 47%, 46%, that 46% of the market is correcting to less of a degree than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's having a harsher correction, which is leading to its share of the market cap decreasing in value. Now, what this is further telling me is as we start to see the value of USD for Bitcoin go up and recover, and we start breaking the mid $70,000 range, you're really going to fucking start to see this Bitcoin dominance plummet. And that's really what's going to, I had spoken to my post, I'd get into this video on this. That's what's going to lead to your altcoin season. That's what's going to lead to your altcoin season is we ultimately want to see this trend line break. We want to see this 53% roughly level break. And once we start definitively breaking below 50%, that's when you're going to see Bitcoin actually still running and doing quite well up in that $80,000, maybe $90,000 range. But your altcoins are just going to be going fucking ballistic. I mean, fucking ballistic. If you haven't been here before and you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll experience it soon. And again, I want to, reiterate, even though we're having a little bit of a deeper correction, not by much. I mean, again, $58,000 is kind of my primary view on what I was expecting. as the ultimate lower target on the lower end of the spectrum, and we've gone to 56.5. So we're basically in line with what I said. Even though, look, we're having our 5th straight week here, and you're thinking, oh, when is this correction going to end? This shit, don't forget what happened back here, okay? I remember, just because I was heavily getting into it, and it is my largest altcoin position, I've shared this with you, I remember buying Caspa at 3 cents, 3.5 cents in here, and then watching that thing in a matter of several months run all the way up to 20 cents, okay? Pulling a 6-7x. So just tape. I'm telling you, I have been here for such a long period of time in terms of being in crypto. I have watched how quickly this market changes on a dime from up to down. This correction to me is nothing. I'm not batting an eye at this correction, okay? I've told you my invalidation points when I'd start to become concerned. I've told you how low we could go and I still wouldn't be worried. I've showed you on the weekly the higher highs and higher lows being built here. There isn't anything that has me nervous or scared. The only caution flag I've thrown your way, Traders Dynamic Index has kissed here, and I'm going to be watching that. The RSI on the monthly has dipped below 70, although I need to do more homework to understand the historical significance of that. But on the weekly in particular, I've said, okay, one thing, if there's anything I'm nervous about, it's the weekly view. We've broken below 70. We're coming up against this trend line here, and we have a negative cross D on the MACD. I need to see a negative cross on the MACD. I need to see some turnaround here. Besides that, there isn't anything that has me super nervous. Total market cap, we're just coming down and kind of kissing this 20 simple moving average. You can kind of see in the past, since we had a cross here of the 20 above the 50, let's just focus on price action. We can turn this red. Since we have gotten this cross of the 20 above the 50, we have come all the way down to the 50. I wouldn't expect us to come all the way down here to 1.5 trillion. That would represent a roughly another 30% correction. I don't see that. But could we get some sort of a capitulatory wick that comes below here? Sure. But I think anything hugging this 20 simple moving average would make sense at this point. We kind of go back to times past. What have we done? Yeah, I mean, even if we look at 16 and 17, you can see, and it makes sense, just kind of understanding averages and what they represent. All we're saying is when we look at a 20 simple moving average, think of it this way, guys. I'll put this in terms you probably have never heard this before. A 20 simple moving average is the average price of the prior 20 candlesticks, and this is weekly, plotted on a chart. That's all it is. And so in theory, it should make sense that if we're experiencing a lot of bullish momentum that will sustain itself over a longer period of time than today, we're expecting this to project out for several more months, it should make sense that price shouldn't really deviate too much from the prior 20 weeks. Does that make sense? Meaning, if we're in this large uptrend, right, and that uptrend is defined by candlesticks, right, and the moving average, we're looking at a 20, is based on the prior 20 weeks, okay, we're just averaging it out, plotting a point on there. It should make sense if that bullish momentum in the shorter term is to sustain itself, then even if price corrects, we really shouldn't deviate from the prior 20 weeks too much, right? So that's why it makes sense that when you look at 2016 and 17, when we really started to get some bullish momentum picking up in the market, we either got close to or touched the 20 simple moving average. And then once we started getting candle bodies closes below it, we started to bleed off, right? If we go to the current time here, you can see ever since, and really I would call it this time period here because the 50 didn't flatten out, the 50, which is the purple, flatten out and begin to curl up until here. So once the 50 had flattened out and began to curl up, you can see that once price action closed above right here, we've gotten close. It looks like we basically touched here. And now I really wouldn't expect much of a deviation here. That's why I'm saying if the low, I'll say this much. I will make a very bold statement right now because this is May 1st. If the low is not in for the total crypto market cap as well as Bitcoin, if it's not in right now, we are extremely, in my opinion, close to the very bottom of where this correction is going at in May. I want you to mark this down right now, crypto crew. Crypto crew, that sounds, I don't like that. Crypto crew, crypto gang. my crypto maniacs, all right? No, seriously, I want you guys to mark this down right now, okay? Apologies. Okay. I want you to mark this down right now. CBG is saying on the 1st of May that if the low is not in for the month of May for the entire total crypto market cap as of May 1st, and for Bitcoin, we are extremely low for the lowest price points we're going to see this entire month. Mark it down. Render, I just wanted to quick point this out. You know what? Maybe we'll get into this tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, we've been going live for 40 minutes. I think we're going to leave things off here right now. Sorry I didn't get to all of the individual comments here. There will be plenty of that throughout this week. Also, make sure to look out for a special edition of the CBG podcast where I'm going to be talking about topics surrounding mental health, depression, and stress. I think all of us could benefit from hearing some of the messages within that podcast. Whether it benefits you today or tomorrow or someone else in your life that you know, I think it's something that would be important. So be on the lookout for that. And like I said, I'm back every single weekday. So keep that in mind. I will be back here tomorrow on Thursday. I will be back here on Friday. And as always, now that I'm back, if something exciting happens for a weekly close, I'll be back here Sunday live streaming as well. So until next time, everybody, thank you so much for all of your comments. Glad to see everyone back. Until next time, let's all spread awareness. Let's carry the education forward, guys. I will see you back here around normal time tomorrow.